Welcome to the Tempo Storm Meta Snapshot Breakdown. Blizzard recently released a patch where they reduced the power level of the standard powerhouse Giggling Inventor and Mana Worm. Because of this, many players have been excited for sweeping changes in the meta. Although the changes we've seen may not have been as big as some players would like, there were shakeups in the top tiers of the standard ladder. Let's get into the Meta Snapshot Breakdown. Many of the known decks are still good, but Secret Mage was killed off, while Quest Rogue lost substantial board building power with the lack of Giggling Inventor. So what's changed about the standard ladder experience? Death Rattle Hunter is the current frontrunner of this post-patch meta and is looking to cement itself as the top deck in Hearthstone's standard format right now. Annoyatrons from Giggling Inventor can no longer stand in the way of Devil Soars, Savannah Highmanes, or King Crush himself. Many players have reverted to taking a flavor of Druid as their ladder deck of choice, which is great news for Death Rattle Hunter because it has very solid matchups against all Druids except Token Druid, with the ability to win any matchup with a good egg draw and the capacity to crush Druid decks. Death Rattle Hunter finds its way to the number 1 in the Meta Snapshot. Coming in at number 2 and 3 on the Snapshot tier list are Malygos Druid and Togwaggle Druid. To nobody's surprise, Druid is still good after the recent balance patch where none of their cards were changed. This left power tools like Spreading Plague relevant, allowing the best Druid builds in Standard to remain resilient to aggro. Both of these decks have similar lists, with Togwaggle functioning as the better deck against control, and Malygos being a little more well-rounded versus the other decks. These lists haven't changed, so are still reliable strategies to take to the ladder. Tier 2 is where we really start to see the meta shake up a bit. Quest Rogue was sitting at the top of Tier 1 just last week, but has managed to find itself in Tier 2 with the loss of Giggling Inventor. Many players have found the deck to still be quite powerful while swapping out Inventors for either Wax Elementals or Serenite Chain Gang, but it's still not as impressive as it was before the balance patch. The deck still has fantastic matchups against slower decks, with the ability to go infinite with Valera the Hollow's hero power and chaining copies of Zola the Gorgon together to make unlimited 4/4s. The deck got a bit weaker versus aggressive decks without a wall of 4/4 Annoyatrons to set up behind, but this deck is likely to remain a strong choice for a ladder in tournaments in the coming weeks. Aggro Secret Mage has all but disappeared with the nerf of Mana Worm's cost from 1 to 2, but a returning deck, Murloc Mage, has stepped up to take its place in the meta. The deck plays a heavy package of cheap Murlocs to rush onto the board and refill with Alaneth or Stargazer Luna. Because the deck is so minion heavy, it gets to abuse the draw power of Book of Specters as a way to generate card advantage as well. Murloc Mage performs well against all of the Druid decks in the meta, as well as having a good matchup versus our number 1 deck, Death Rattle Hunter. Token Druid has fallen out of favor a little bit recently because of the loss of powerful Giggling Inventor Strong Shell Scavenger turns. Some players have experimented with cards like Tar Creeper to continue to benefit off of Strong Shell, but many players have reverted to an Oaken Summons build using Violet Teacher. The list featured in our Meta Snapshot uses both Tar Creeper and a copy of Violet Teacher for the best of both worlds. This deck is still very strong and very powerful, but the loss of the ability to make big mid-game taunts with Strong Shell and Chain Gang or Inventor makes the deck a bit weaker to cards like Defile. This is why we see Token Druid further down on our tier list than usual. Even Shaman has seen a rise in popularity because of how good its matchups are against the Druids of the meta, along with its good matchup versus Death Rattle Hunter. The deck sports a proactive game plan of developing cheap totems from the cost-reduced hero power backed up by Flame Tongue totems. Corpse Taker allows the decks to have some serious mid-game pressure, while Hagatha and an Elemental package, along with the Lich King, give the deck some serious late-game value. If you're looking for a well-rounded deck with close matchups against almost every deck in the meta, then this is the deck for you. Even Warlock remains a very powerful deck with a strong collection of single target removal, AoE spells, and powerful mid-game threats. Turn 3 Mountain Giants and big Twilight Drakes backed up by removal are still as powerful as ever. The deck still does what it does very well, but it's not too happy to see a rise in Death Rattle Hunter, so it falls from Tier 1 to Tier 2 this week. With Baku Warrior losing one of its best matchups and one of its worst matchups in Death Rattle Hunter seeing a ton of play right now, we see it fall from Tier 2 to the top of Tier 3. It's still a reasonable deck to bring to the ladder, but the polarizing nature of the deck can make for some very easy wins or very convincing losses. If you're looking to counter the top meta this weekend, you'll want to bring a proactive deck that can beat Hunter while not being weak to Spreading Plagues from Druid. Good choices for that right now would be even Shaman or Murloc Mage. Of course, any deck in the Meta Snapshot can win games on the ladder, but the decks in the top tiers are the best for high levels of play, as they're the most refined lists in Standard's current state. While there are similarities from the previous meta to question the effectiveness of October's balanced patch, the return of an alternate aggro mage archetype and the rise of Death Rattle Hunter suggests that there's more power shifts remaining in the Boomsday meta. Let us know in the comments what decks you'll expect to see more or less of in the coming weeks, or what decks you think we should have higher or lower on our tier list. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed this breakdown of the Tempo Storm meta snapshot. Hope you have a great week. Happy laddering.